Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. I'm your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist, and the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I'm joined by
Brian McKinley, author and godfather of vampire thrillers. We have on the phone, not with us in person, but in spirit, Chris, the Baron. Say hi.
Baron? Hey, how you doing? Baron Voltage, recreational hypnotist, and small medium at large.
So for those
Never
of you...
going to get tired of that one.
No, you're really not. So if anyone isn't aware from either the end of last week's show or from the posts on Facebook, tonight, technically Tuesday marked 1 year since we first joined Hamilton Radio.
But it can't be perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, Tuesday,
lines up
our
pretty
show's
quick.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, last week marked 3 years since I first started doing this show on YouTube.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Now we're doing a much bigger celebration next month for the fact that we're going to have our 50th episode.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
But
Indeed.
Given we've hit these milestones, we're going to kind of do a little bit more laid back of a show tonight. We're going to do a retrospective type deal. Talk about some of the guests we've had. We've got a few guests from the past who may or may not be joining us. We're not going to give out names because we want it to be a surprise.
To all the guests we've loved before.
I also am going to do something we don't usually do until the half-hour mark, and remind everybody of the phone number, because this is definitely, if you've been listening to us since the beginning, or if you listen to us for a week now, this is a really good time to call in if you have questions or comments. 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492.
Yes.
Feel free to call in. We're always happy to take the calls. You want to call.
The voice commands you.
Yeah.
It's even spookier when he's not here.
I know, right?
That's just the voice.
Well, you had it perfectly. He's with us in spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the show with all the spirits.
This is a very spirited show.
Oh man, we've got a lot of things coming up for that matter. Not for nothing. We're only a little over a month out from Halloween.
Yes, Halloween.
Indeed.
Dun, dun, dun. Our favorite time of the year.
Yep.
That should be a good show.
Halloween for me, 24/7, 365. Speak for thine own self, young man.
Of course, you know the thing we're just missing this year? Halloween's
What's
on a
that?
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be awkward.
It's like we're missing it by a day.
Well, you know what? What isn't there? And maybe even Beth could chime in on this. Isn't the actual celebration supposed to be on the 1st?
On the pagan side, Beth, do you have a comment?
All right, so what, you're talking about Samhain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samhain's usually later in the month, usually mid to later August. Not August, excuse me, October, because there's 3...
August.
Oh,
I corrected myself.
I know, but you still get a little jump.
I will jump over this table.
Bring it, girl!
All right, you know what?
And I missed it.
There we go. Everybody's
no,
getting
in all
feisty
seriousness-
now.
Brian.
What?
Zip. No. So here's the thing. There's 3 harvests that happen going from summer into fall.
Mm-hmm.
There's llamas, and these are some more common names. There are alternates, but I suck at names. All right, and it looks like we also have another caller.
Oh, that might be.
Yay.
That might be our
That
first
might be
special
Dacre.
guest.
Yeah, Evan. Hello, hello.
Good evening. Are you there?
Hey, Kevin, it's Dacre.
Hey,
Dacre.
Good to hear from you again.
Finally.
Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. May we present Dacre Stoker.
Yes.
So,
Well,
One of our-
happy 1 year anniversary, guys.
thank you.
Nice to be
Yeah,
here
one
with
of
you
our,
for a
one of our
couple
best
minutes.
guests.
I'm actually about to start some other interviews with the launch of Dracula getting close, but I could not waste this opportunity to spend a few moments with you guys and see how you're all doing on your first anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Looking
Thank you.
forward to
Really
reading that.
appreciate that. Yeah, we're both. As I think you saw on your Facebook, you posted it. I'm like, want.
Yeah,
I'm like fanboying right now. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's okay. We like that. That's they did a great job with printing the book, and I'll just give you a little hint. I can't do the reveal yet, but
Fair enough.
when you get the book, don't read the author's note first. Okay, don't go the back and read
Fair.
because JD and I tell a lot of cool stories about the writing of it and how things kind of came to be. So don't do that. But when you're sort of getting into the story, and probably by about the third chapter, take a moment to remove the dust jacket of the beautiful hardcover book that Putnam did. But promise me, don't do it before about the third chapter.
Nice.
Because they did something they did something very cool on the spine. Ooh. And let's just keep that between us for now, and at a future show, I'll give you the nitty-gritty details on how that came to be, because it's a really cool reveal that has something to do with a character in the story.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
Now I'm going to have to buy a copy.
Yep.
Of course. Come on.
It's the idea.
Did we not all already decide pretty much the moment we heard about this book that we wanted a copy?
Maybe we can buy a copy for between the three of us, and we'll just pass it around.
So for
get it autographed, of course.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about or who this is, Dacre is the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, the man who wrote Dracula. He's got a book about to come out next month called Dracul.
Yeah.
You're hyper excited about this.
The prequel to Dracula. It's the story of Bram growing up with his family and things that J.D. Barker and I fictionalized. Mm-hmm. Once we knew, all the real stuff about Bram's life, we decided this is too good to be just left to the scholars and the academics. We've got to kind of juice this up a little bit and bring this to the world in a way that Bram writes Dracula as if it's a real story and a real warning to the world. And the way Bram is going to warn the world is what he does best, and that is write stories.
Right.
So,
nice.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm excited. I'm about to start 6 weeks traveling around the world to promote the thing. It's been sold in other countries, so I'll be in Ireland and Scotland
Phenomenal.
and England, of course, and actually going to Finland to be part of a museum exhibit because they're really into all this stuff as well. And I'm bringing over some of the Bram Stoker estate, some of these cool artifacts that the family has to be part of a larger vampire display. But, it's amazing how, no points of the globe go untouched when it comes to vampires, guys, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed.
Very nice.
There's folklore everywhere.
I have a question for Dacre since I've actually got him. And it's something that's been burning in my mind. Hopefully you can answer this for me, kind sir. Because unfortunately I missed the chance to be able to talk to you the first time you were on the show.
I'll try my best.
All right. I've read that you actually have Bram's notes when he was planning on writing a sequel, his actual handwritten notes. Now, they say that a person's individual writing, their tone, in their own words, have a tendency to really give you a conveyance as to who the person could be and how they were. What can you tell me you derived from that?
Well, first of all, let's clear up this. Bram's notes, there's 125 pages of notes that the original live in the Rosenbach Museum in Philadelphia. So I don't have those. I've seen them, I've pored over them, analyzed the Jesus out of them, and now they're published in a way that you or I could purchase them, annotated in a wonderful book. So they're a great resource tool. That was a big tool to read and try to get into Bram's head, as you mentioned. And I agree. I'm going to answer that part of the question as well. The other really important source material that kind of spoke to me is Bram's Lost Journal. Now, that journal is owned by one of Bram's great-grandsons. It lives in a vault in London, but it was found in one of these great-grandsons' attic, and I got to read this thing through. I actually had photographs taken of it, so it's easier, actually, if you can believe it, to get high-res photos on the computer screen enlarged because Bram's handwriting is so terrible. It takes a long time to figure it out, and it's easier to sit there at home, which I wasn't going to be able to take the journal from London back to South Carolina and sit here with it. It's just too valuable, and it could fall apart.
Yeah.
So once those pieces were taken, it was much easier on the screen. And then the other really important piece is the typescript of Dracula, which is, of course, a manuscript that has been typed, and that is owned by Paul Allen, the Microsoft co-founder, and that lives in Seattle. And he also allowed me and JD to go out there and analyze that. So each of those pieces, all three of them, when I saw them in person, I did get these sort of feelings, that the hair kind of racing on my arms and sort of those goosebumps. And part of that's because I got to know Bram by reading all the other biographies about him and reading these first-hand pieces, and started to almost predict how Bram was going to say things. And when he started a paragraph, as he would look at something and make a remark about it in his journal, which would be something that he would either use later in a short story or a novel or even in a toast, I got used to the way he was looking at the world. And I got used to the way he was, sort of fictionalizing. And what was eerie, guys, was that there were certain tendencies that I kind of saw as a trait that's kind of come through the Stoker family and onto my father and his other brothers and then down to me in a way that's like, this is like a little bit weird. But when you think of people and families that have traits, the way they just do things, the way they act, or they overreact. Well, I kind of got that, and that's my best effort to convey that when JD and I are writing the story, was putting it into words. What would Bram say? What would Matilda say? What would Sir Thornley Stoker say? And that really helped, having that almost that genetic connection.
Nice.
That's amazing. I mean,
Great
I'm also
question.
just thinking,
Indeed.
we're not that far from Philadelphia.
Yeah, me a heck of a lot closer. It's only 45 minutes from me.
And I've got
You should
family
go
in the
sometime.
direction.
I'm not kidding you. Well, for one, we're launching the book there October 2nd. They're going to have the notes on display, and we're going to do a big thing where we do a presentation on how we wrote the book. But at any time, it's a great place to go. Nobody really knows how the notes got there. They're very well cataloged, many other things in that collection at the Rosenbach. But the notes that have their own little life, that when two Boston College professors showed up there to do some research on Vlad Dracula, because they actually had an old woodcut of Vlad, the curator came out and said, well, if you're interested in this Vlad business, what do you think about this Dracula stuff? And they about, dropped. It was McNally and Florescu in the mid-'70s writing In Search of Dracula. They're like, their jaws dropped. They had stumbled upon the Dracula Holy Grail.
Yeah, and those guys were
ever
characters.
since then, they got lucky, and they presented to the world. So you guys should take a pilgrimage. It's worth it. It's kind of cool to see his
Definitely.
terrible handwriting and to see if you can figure it out for yourself.
Are you saying you're going to be there
So
on
we'll
the
be seeing
second,
you there.
Dacre?
Sorry?
You're going to be there on the
I'm
second?
sorry?
Are you saying you're going to be there?
JD and I are going to be there. It's
Road trip,
the
guys.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, guys.
We're gonna. It's like no. You're way too close. This is gonna be a road trip, and you're gonna see. I think you're gonna see at least all three of us. Probably bring everyone else we can for the ride.
And Skippy.
Listen, you better call ahead, because I know it's not a. I don't think they're charging anybody, but they do. They got a certain space.
Yeah.
So call ahead and tell them you're a friend of mine, and you need to get in. And that would be really cool. See, and do some taping of us there too. That would be so awesome for the show.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, we'll be happy
Indeed.
to, and we'll call.
Well, guys,
we'll call and get on this.
Let's do that. And I've got to jump now because I literally have 15 minutes to get my act together for another thing I'm taping with JD. But
And thank you for joining
congratulations,
us,
guys. Great to be a part of it. And
thank you
it
very
would be really
much.
cool to see you all in Philly.
You will.
Okay, guys.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dacre Stoker.
That was really awesome.
That was
Yeah.
October
amazing.
2nd, Philadelphia.
Yeah. Rosenbach Museum,
Yep.
Philadelphia. Make a note of it. We need to look it up. We need to figure out who we got to call, and we're
get
making
down
this
there.
trip.
Mhm.
Beth, you in?
Yeah, might as well be.
Amisha?
We can
I think that was a
carpool
yes.
down, and be
Yep.
environmentally
trip.
conscious.
Yep.
Environmental
Oh, I'll
and
make
save
sure.
on parking. It is Philadelphia.
Yeah, save on parking and gas. Yeah, that's not too long from now. That's
Could be
like a week or two.
fantastic.
Yeah. But for folks, if anybody's just tuning in, if you haven't figured it out yet, I mean, obviously we talk a lot about the paranormal. We also try to have some fiction authors on. Like, we were lucky enough to have Dacre. We've been lucky enough to have Patrick Thomas and John French, who are all three of whom are fantastic writers, and we highly recommend everything.
Yeah, K. Edwin Fritz.
Yeah, K. Edwin Fritz.
Had, actually in studio, was one of our first in-studio guests, I recall. He's now moved down to, so I think, Maryland.
So it'd be a little hard to have him back in studio, though. I'd be happy to have him on again.
No, it'd be great, but yeah, he moved away.
Well, he can always call in.
We will see.
I've said it before. I've said it again. We've had a great run of guests. There isn't a single person I've had here while we've been on Hamilton, or for that matter, in the 2 years before while I was on YouTube. There's not one guest I've had on that I would not have back.
Yeah. No, we've been very lucky.
Yeah, they had me back so often that you made me a co-host.
Yeah, we put him to work
See,
finally.
this is the thing that returning guests need to be wary of. Oh, fantastic. Put him through. Good evening. You're live.
Good evening. This is John French. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Good. Hey, John. How are
Good
you?
to
Hey.
You haven't met him before. Let me introduce Baron Voltage, our newer co-host.
Hey, Baron.
How are you? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are things?
Yeah, things are all right out here in Pensy. You cannot complain. It's a shame I couldn't be there in studio, but I'm glad to be there in spirit to haunt the heck out of both Kevin and Brian.
Well, being there in spirit seems to fit in with their radio show.
Yeah, exactly. No, we just
Without a doubt.
mentioned you, in fact, John.
Yeah, your timing is
Pardon?
impeccable. We were just talking about you and Patrick. Because
Yeah, I just got a message from Patrick. Looks like we're going to be at the FairyCon again this year.
oh, fantastic! Amish and I were just talking about that, and me trying to go down again. If they're still looking for that matter, I might try to apply.
We promised not to strangle you this time.
Okay.
Oh, where's the
Either
fun in
that-
that?
Either that or we'll do a better job of it because you're still walking around.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's me. If you manage to do the full job, I'll still come back.
come back as a ghost and haunt us.
Exactly. For anyone who's listening who's not aware, this is John French. He is the author of the Bianca Jones series, along with a number of other books. Paranormal detective fiction. He's also a crime scene supervisor for Baltimore.
Yes, good stuff.
Ah,
And a very long
I
time
actually
friend of
got
the
a
show.
question.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to love this, sir. What is your viewpoint on hypnosis and its criminal applications?
Oh,
That's an interesting one.
I've never really dealt with, hypnosis as that point of thing. From what I've read, it does have its uses, but you always have to worry about an unintentional bias on the part of the hypnotist to make sure that he does that. He has to be totally unaware of the circumstances of the crime so that he does not inadvertently provide the subject with information that the subject wouldn't otherwise have.
Mm-hmm.
that's very good.
Indeed. Naturally. It's with the nature of hypnosis in and of itself, 99.9% of everything is the subject, only 1% is me.
Yeah, Baron's a hypnotist.
I forgot to mention.
Yeah, it's his,
Go ahead, Kev. Go ahead,
his
Kev.
profession.
Yeah, he's a stage hypnotist.
So
That was
how-
a good question, though.
Yeah, how have you been?
Yeah.
Good, good. As long as we're talking about that, once a long, long time ago, I can't talk about the case too much because it hit national news.
True.
But I did work with a psychic who claimed to have a vision of the killer. Back then we used to do this thing. We used to do this thing called a identikit.
Oh, yeah, I've
Which
seen those.
is- Yeah, that's old technology now, but I had to put together an identikit based on the vision that the psychic had.
Interesting.
It was an interesting experience. I don't think they wound up using the psychic's description in the solution of the case, But
Okay.
you know, it was that might have been my first encounter with the supernatural.
I will say, from my knowledge, having researched the subject, there are a lot of psychics that claim to work with the police. To the best of my knowledge, there's no documented cases of them doing so successfully.
Keyword successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only one. That was my first encounter. I've had a couple cases where voodoo played a small part of it.
Well, I would think I know. I know. Okay, we're getting an echo.
Yep.
Yeah, that's strange. Now it's gone
You're
again.
even.
We're good. Okay.
It seems to have stopped. Well, no.
Now, I was going to say, I know a lot of police departments, especially the bigger ones. I mean, if somebody hears weird footsteps in their house at night, their usual first reaction is to call the police, not to think it's a ghost.
Yeah.
Right.
So usually, I know there's the story that you based on an actual case, for that matter. They tailored the cursed weenie.
Yeah. The case of the cursed weenie. That was basically there was voodoo involved, and there was an actual cursed weenie, and it took place during a big double blizzard we had many years ago.
Yeah.
And I figured if I couldn't get a story out of that, shame on me.
And you got a good one, I have to
can't
say.
even.
Nice.
I've read it a couple of times.
Wow.
It's definitely among my favorite of your stories, and I like your stuff. It's a cursed weenie. What more do you want in life?
Now, are we talking
Yeah.
a cursed hot dog, or are we talking about anatomy?
No.
We're talking
no.
anatomy.
I'll tell you
See,
that
for once,
when-
I'm going there.
when Monsters Among Us came out,
Mhm.
it came out right before not this year's Balticon, but last year's Balticon. And I figured, what better story to read than the case of the cursed weenie, because I had a reading to do.
Mhm.
Well, you know, I'm sitting there with a couple of other writers, and I've kind of narrowed down what I was going to read, 20 minutes from the story. And everything looks like we're ready to go. And then the 14-year-old girl walks in.
Yep. Ruins everything.
So I very politely asked her age, because she might just have looked young.
Yeah.
She was 14. And I went to my other writers. I said, I can't read this story, can I? And they went, no. Fortunately, I had C.J. Henderson's Jack and Her Beanstalk with me. So I wound up
CJ.
reading from that.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah,
story.
even that
Yeah.
title.
I
Now, I actually got a question for you there, sir, and another one, ironically enough. This may have been asked at one point or another, but could you tell me whether or not there have ever been any cases that you can talk about where you took a look at the circumstances, you took a look at the individual pieces of evidence, and the only thing you simply said to yourself is, what the frick?
Oh yeah. I mean, there are always cases that look like one thing, and then the more you examine them, they turn out to be something else. Most common is things that look like an accidental or a natural death, and they turn out to be homicides.
Mm.
Yeah, the cleverly
There
staged
are also
homicide.
things that look like homicides that turn out to have a perfectly non-criminal explanation for the death.
Nice.
Right. Well, what I mean is there anything that just quite literally made your head spin like, wait, what? Like a total and absolute shock.
I think I became jaded very early in my career, so that things that sort of thing was like might be unexpected, but you kind of roll with the punches. Now, I did have one case, and I can't, I won't go into the specifics of the
Of course.
case,
Sure.
but it involved a dog bringing home, the dog was let out for the night. The dog came back with a bone that was clearly not a soup bone.
Oh, boy.
So, the owner of the dog called the police and said, well, where does your dog usually roam? And she showed the police. And sure enough, it looked like the dog had dug something up. So they just held the scene until I could get there. And then once I photographed, this is where television makes its big mistakes. They would have dug and then called the crime lab, but what you're supposed to do is call the crime lab, document the scene, and then start digging. So they dug down and they found the bones of a dog. So everybody relaxed. I said, if I was trying to hide a body, I would put a dead dog on top of the body so you guys would stop digging.
That
makes sense.
Clever, yeah.
And they all just kind of turned and looked at me. Where do you get this stuff? And one of them actually asked if I was working out the plot of another story.
Yeah. You look like what? Who hasn't thought of how to dispose of a body?
Well,
Trust me, I've had very interesting conversations about that, which I can't go on, which I can't describe on radio.
Well, it just makes me think of our last guest. When they dug up the place Dracula was supposed to be buried.
The good news for the police and the bad news for the story is that there was nothing else under the dog.
That is a good thing.
But at least they checked.
Although it does make me think of a story that did happen in Maryland, although I don't think it happened in Baltimore. So my mentor, Lou Gentili, had a case that he did down there. Oh, hello.
Oh, hi, this is Chuck from Chuck's Paranormal calling in to talk with Kevin.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
Oh, hey, Kevin, how are you? I thought you guys were just on the, I was listening on the, I was just fired up the radio and I hear you talking about disposing of bodies. So
Oh, nice.
Well, no, we've had a friend of the show, John French. He's a crime scene supervisor as well as a horror writer.
Oh, okay.
So it's old friends night.
Yeah.
We didn't do it.
Yes, you did.
Not that you know.
You can't prove it.
We didn't do it.
One of the first mystery conventions I went to was with Malice Domestic, and it was in Bethesda. I think it was quite a few years ago, and I wound up talking to a mystery writer who was also an expert in fire investigation.
Nice.
She and I were, just kind of, talking shop, and we both agreed that the hardest thing about, one of the hardest things a murderer has to face is not committing the murder, but getting rid of the body.
Yeah.
And so we're discussing various ways of disposing of a body. And it doesn't occur to either one of us that we are in the lobby of a hotel and people who don't know there's a mystery convention going on are listening to it.
Yeah.
I've had conversations like that before.
To two writers, it's a perfectly natural thing to just, to talk about.
Yeah.
But to an average person, no, they're like, you're crazy.
I've actually had conversations like that before at a number of the conventions that I've been to. And for those of us that don't know, a lot of my hypnosis presentations involve simulating forms of torture. And I had somebody come up to me and ask me about one of the most painful things I've ever done to simulate to somebody through hypnosis. And when I started to describe it, and Mr. French, you might be able to actually immediately tell me whether or not you've heard of a criminal profile along this line when it comes to my line of thinking. I had the person hypnotically strapped to a table, had every single one of their bones crushed with a wrench, followed by replacing them with salt replicas, and then began to slowly but surely pour salt and vinegar over the open wounds.
This is a weird show for the tonight.
Yeah. This went
I
somewhere
haven't
else.
encountered anything like that.
Thank
But
God.
it does sound like an episode of Altered Carbon that's on
Or
Netflix.
Dexter.
Yes, Altered
Yeah.
Carbon.
Altered
Never
Carbon, I've
seen
read.
it.
Seen it.
So maybe they should be in contact with me for a storyline.
But no, to connect.
Yeah, that's a strange show. I haven't finished watching it yet, but
No.
it's a strange show.
It sounds like it.
It's amazing.
I haven't seen it. I think I may have to check this out.
So, Chuck, how have you been?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Just hanging low. You know, it's not a particularly busy year, but you know, outside of work, family, and stuff like that. But I can't complain. I wish I had some good stuff about talking, you know, in a restaurant and having people overhear what you're saying. I wish I had a good story like that, but.
You can talk about what a great experience it was being on our show.
Oh, definitely.
you're one of
yes,
our
oh my
earlier
God,
guests.
definitely.
Yeah.
It was. I love being on the show. That was fantastic.
Gee, this is two of our
And the thing
Yeah.
the thing that's memorable to me, I was just thinking about a little bit ago, is the lady from Las Vegas who called and started screaming at us. The first irate caller.
That's right. That's you. You were on that night. That was our
Yeah.
first
Oh,
call.
wow.
Hilarious.
Yes.
Oh, the way she tried ripping into Kevin, it's like, oh,
That was
my.
That was our first call in.
Oh, you
we
guys-
were so excited.
You guys should see it. So, for you guys, and to remind our audience, I did an interview with an atheist by the name of Skylar Fiction on Sunday night on his channel. I recommend checking out the interview. He was a really nice guy. We had a really good interview. But look at the hate comments from other people. It's quite funny.
Yeah, no, this woman was the woman from Vegas. I remember her. She was afraid for your soul.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
You had no point in existing in your field. It was like, really? Honey, you've been doing this for how long?
No, it was so nuts.
You
Oh,
people
that-
don't
that-
know what
that
you're
she
messing
was-
with.
that
You
Yep.
was-
people are just asking for it.
Yeah.
Don't be playing with those things.
Well, I had the
You
one
realize
guy.
I'm going to take a spectrograph specifically to see if I can compare the voice with the woman's voice, just to see how freaking well of an impersonation that is.
Man, that's
Wow.
pretty close.
My throat hurt just after doing that little imitation. So, and she ran it for a good 5-10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
easily.
Yeah. The only problem with it was there was a big echo with her. She was listening to the radio at the same time, so it was
Right.
hard to make her out.
Yeah. We had to, I would have let her go because I don't mind the criticism, but the echo was too much and I had to drop her.
Yeah.
You see, it's a good thing you guys didn't have me on the show at that point, because I would have simply pointed out to her, and ma'am, you do realize that because you still got your radio on, you're imitating God, in which case then your soul is in peril and you should burn in hell.
That'd been an interesting comeback.
I was at I was doing the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention last weekend, and selling my books while to people who hadn't spent all their money getting celebrity autographs. And one of the books I have on my table was Pat Thomas's "What Would Cthulhu Do?"
Ah, yes.
And give Pat a plug. He's got 2 more Dear Cthulhu books coming out shortly.
Nice.
Cthulhu Happens and Cthulhu Explains It All.
Nice.
But this woman stops at my table, points at the book, and says, "How do you say that name?" And I explained to her. I said, "Oh, it's pronounced Cthulhu. He's a H.P. Lovecraft character, one of the old ones, an old god who was banished from the universe. And it's an advice column." She looks at me and says, "So Cthulhu's the devil?"
More or
Oh, dear
less.
God.
No, so well, yeah, that's basically what she was going for. So after I basically tried to explain to her that no, he's just a monster who likes to give advice, and she repeats, you're like I said, he's the devil. And for some reason, she decided she didn't want to buy any of my books.
See, I
But
personally,
felt the need to comment.
Yeah.
I recommend that series of books of Patrick's, as well as all of your books.
Yeah.
But I have a sense of humor about this sort of thing.
Cthulhu Fatagan. What a wonderful
Well,
phrase.
if that guy says he's the devil, I think we need to call our good friend Marcus and bring him in on the case.
Oh, good heavens.
Kevin, I actually I have an update on him. His latest thing, besides still chasing away demons and exorcising them with his
while
the
playing
demons
video
that he
games.
summons and-
Oh, yes.
Don't forget the video games.
He's doing a circuit now where he's going around and he's doing like little, he goes to like shops and stuff, and he does he has talks about what life is like on the other side. He's now a foremost authority on what happens to our souls after we pass away.
Oh, nice.
Oh, good heavens. Okay, I need to start doing talks at shops, because if this bozo can do it, I can do it better.
That's what I mean. You got to get the word out there, man. We need publicity.
Yeah. If not for his $25 speaking fee, or he's charging everybody walking in the door, I would have run down. I think as he was doing one in Asbury Park at one of the shops down there. I would have run down there because I can only imagine what he's saying after the way his method for exorcising demons out of houses.
Yeah.
Okay, for the listeners who don't know, Marcus is amateur demonologist.
Wait, is this the Crowley jerk?
Yeah, all the craziest stories you can think of.
Who has no idea what he's doing?
Yeah.
Yep.
He spent 24 hours in a person's house with a video game system because he needed something to do between prayers or something during his exorcism. Waving a katana around, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was like an 8-foot sword or 15-foot. No, it was like an 8-foot sword or something. You're one of those big swords like that.
Oh, good heavens!
Oh, wow. So
A Nodachi.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
like at least
Nodachi,
a Nodachi. And he also, let's see, if memory serves, one case he told them that he had opened a portal in the house, and there's nothing that can be done to stop that.
Correct. Yeah, that wasn't me, but that was a friend down in it was Brick Township. They had a demon. Well, he said he came in and he said, "Oh, you got a demon in the house, I'll get rid of it." Then he opened up a portal, and then the house flooded with a ton of spirits. And then when they called him back, he said, there's nothing I can do about that. He said, well, you got too many spirits to deal with, so you're going to have to figure it out on your own.
For a rank amateur like Marcus,
ended up going in there, and it was an 8-month ordeal to not only close the portal, get rid of the spirits, but then fix the psychological damage that had been done in the meantime.
It's like the unreliable plumber. It's like, well, I'm sorry. See, what you got here is you got a portal. That's beyond the scope of the work that we originally agreed upon.
You gotta have me be talking like that, all right? Here's what you got here. You got here a portal, all right? It got opened here inadvertently. You gotta take the 3/4 inch, and you gotta go around there like this. You see over here like this, and then what I gotta do is I gotta get a couple of guys down here from the Port Authority. We'll make sure we take care of that for you. But it's gonna cost you a little bit extra. But I guarantee you, it's not gonna be a problem. I promise you, it's not gonna be a problem.
You got to replace the whole system.
Just keep 10 feet away while I swing my sword, because that's the only way that we can kill the demons.
And we don't want to cut your head off by mistake.
Man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
insured
the other thing
for that.
I forgot to mention to you was, and I think I mentioned it to you when the case was going on, Kevin, that you had suggested, putting holy water, crossing the doors and the windows and everything, and then I did all that. And then I asked the lady, I said, where did you get the oil from? I mean, the holy water from, because they were Jewish. And she said, Marcus gave it to us. And I said, do you know where Marcus got it from? And she said, oh, yeah, he makes it himself.
Of course
and then Kevin said, I wouldn't trust any holy water that Marcus made himself.
They're Jewish. Just get the sacramental wine. The Jews have blessed wine.
I got a subject for our next show.
Okay.
I got a subject for our next show. The subject of our next show is going to be the cranks and the stories that come with them.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Well, that was what I wanted to get back into when we did the scam artists and whatnot. Is things like that, because we had some grand times talking about the adventures of Marcus.
Oh yeah. We need to talk
Slayer.
about Marcus and some of the other crackpots and lunatics. Because I'll say this now, because I know that there are atheists that listen to shows like this that don't believe anything we're saying, but find it all in good fun.
Yeah.
If you think I'm crazy, Just wait. There's so much worse out there than me.
No, at the very least, at the very least, as somebody who's sort of an outsider, I can attest that what you do in good faith and with some sort of genuine belief. You might be insane. I mean, you could very well be insane.
I admit I might be insane.
But at least you come to it from a genuine place. This guy just sounds like
Speak
all
for
kinds
yourself.
of
I'm
crackpot.
freaking nuts.
Yeah, this guy sounds like an absolute fraud and nut.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to get going.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
thank
John.
you for calling in.
Okay, I can't call in without plugging the latest book. It's due
Sure.
out from Padwolf as soon as Pat and company get it all together. It's called The Magic of Simon Coombs. Think of it as the Saint meets Harry Dresden.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to check this out.
Oh, I like it.
I need to look at these.
Yeah, you do. And I can give you a hand with that. But thank you so much again
Okay.
for joining us, John. Always a pleasure to have you here.
And I'll call back in October. Just send
Thank
me
you.
a reminder.
I will.
Sweet.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Speaking of reminders, Kevin,
yeah.
did you
wait
talk
a sec.
about Audible yet?
Oh, no, we
Talk.
haven't. We'll do that at the end.
We'll do them both at the end.
All right.
Thanks for the reminder.
Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was John French, author of Bianca Jones and a ton of other books. He has a fun pulp series about a character called the Nightmare I'd also recommend. Very nice guy. He's been on the show a few times. I recommend checking him. And we talked a little bit about our friend, both his and mine. I'm happy to say Patrick Thomas is another really good writer I'd recommend folks check out. But we've been blessed with some really cool friends
Yeah.
of the show.
Oh, no, we've
Indeed.
Yourself included, Chuck.
had.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you. I know I'm a D-list celebrity like Kathy, what's her name, but that's okay. I can live with that.
But you came in and played the
Hey.
Crystal Bowls for us. That
And
was awesome.
that was memorable. That was, I mean, that's one of the memories that of the whole year here. That was incredible. The way I didn't expect it to be anything. I thought, okay, it's going to be, some bowls. It's, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, that was like profound.
The air
Oh,
vibrated.
thank you.
I mean,
Well,
it's something.
I was going to say I've actually expanded since then because now I use a 22-inch subatomic gong and Tibetan wind chimes with it.
Clearly, we need to have
it's
you come
even-
back
it's
in one
even
of these
gotten
days.
that
Oh,
much
yeah.
more mesmerizing. At least that's everybody who comes to the class says when afterward. In fact, I wish I can't curse, can I? No.
You can curse.
Mildly.
Okay.
Curse.
I'll use a different word. But one of the mediums who comes to the class, my friend Christine.
Mm-hmm.
The first night I had used gong and the chimes, and when it was over, she gets up and she goes, "That was effing amazing."
Yeah. But no, we do have to have
Now,
you back because that was
yeah.
pretty good.
I do have a question for you there, Chuck. What is your
Okay.
actual profession?
Airline employee.
All right. Airline employee. You see, Kev, I can turn everything here into an interesting bit one way or the other.
Yeah.
Can you ever say, now you're an airline employee, this would indicate that what? Are you in the tin cans or are you down on the ground?
No, on the ground.
Okay, you're on the ground. How often have you seen some of your airline employees walking around somewhat zombified?
That would be every day.
Okay. So, no, they're basically in a state of hypnosis, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's more like dazed because they're more in a daze because they can't believe the BS that they see that goes on every day. And when you think you can't see any more ridiculous BS in your life, something will come along and top it. Whether it's other people within the industry, within our particular airline. Customers. I mean, 99% of the people are fine, but it's that 1%. And one thing that we've always been able to joke with, I've been in for about 30 years, that if you wanted to do stand-up comedy once a week, an airline employee could just basically spend an hour recounting all the nonsense that they've seen or heard over that week.
I
and they'd
believe
have plenty
it.
of material, and it would be fresh every week.
Wow. Now, considering it's comedic, what could you say is that has happened over there that you might be able to attribute to the supernatural?
Well, if I could, I would take the biggest piece of sage, and you probably need several bundles. I would clear out the airport and sage that place to death.
Oh, good heavens!
And then I'd throw black tourmaline and all over the place. There's so much negative energy, but that's because it's the 1% that come in there. And, there's a bad thunderstorm, their flight's delayed 2 hours, and they're the guy who walks up and says, "Why is our plane delayed?" It looks like Ghidra is like raining down, bolts of lightning all over the place. Why do you think we're not leaving right now?
It's when you look out the window into the thunderstorm and go, "Good question."
There's a massive snowstorm. It's been going on for 2 days. There's 10 inches of snow on the ground. And, sometimes, the employees, they get stuck there. They can't leave because so much snow has fallen. The roads are bad. And then you'll still have that one person that will go out and brave the roads and show up, even though everything has been canceled. They go, why is my flight canceled?
Yeah.
Tell them there's a gremlin on the wing. You're trying to talk it off. You're trying to talk it down.
Through the air?
William Shatner's on board.
I have to recommend, Chuck, there's a... if you haven't heard the episodes we've done on it recently, there's a whole crazy movement called the Sovereign Citizens Movement. But there's a video circulating online of one of these goofballs arguing with the TSA agents. And the crazy coming from this guy about how he doesn't have to go through a cancer-causing screening, and he does that pat down are sexual assault. And this TSA agent is like just the definition of Zen calm. And now I'm getting the echo again.
Keeps coming back every once in a while.
Weird.
Yeah, there's plenty of TSA stories. Along with that too, people trying to walk through, and then with the pat down, and everything's a little extra, a little extra touchy feely.
What was that?
Another caller.
Another caller. Go ahead.
Hey, who's this?
Good evening. You're live on the air.
There's so many people calling.
Yeah.
It's Arthur. How you doing?
Hey, Arthur.
Hey,
how you doing?
Arthur.
Hey!
It's you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our friend Arthur Moyer, Omnimancer, magician, generally cool guy.
Yes.
How have you been?
Fantastic.
Hello.
Happy to meet you.
Happy to meet you too.
Yeah, Chuck and Arthur would get along.
Yeah, I think they would. Chuck,
You have a hypnotist voice.
yeah. So, Arthur,
I like you already.
you're on with our co-host, who is Baron Voltage, and with another friend of ours, who is Chuck, who runs a paranormal group. He's also a Reiki practitioner.
Okay, excellent.
Hello.
But thank you for
Again, nice
calling
to meet
in.
you all. As much as it was a meeting, but
So what's your shtick?
oh, my shtick is very long.
He's a wizard, Harry.
I do well. I mean, as far as Kevin's interest, I run a magical order called Omniversay that I founded about 26 years ago.
Nice.
Grown quite a bit in that time. My convention's actually coming up in a few weeks.
Really?
Called Crucible. Yeah, I've been running a magic convention since 2003 called Crucible. This year we're changing the format to make it my group mostly only, sort of Omni and friends. But that's kind of my shtick on that side. The other shtick I have is that, I'm, for the past year I've been running a video game company, that kind of thing. So
How is the game coming?
Oh, rock
what are
on.
you trying to do? Trying to get my first, game out, but it's still a ways away.
You
Yeah,
already
they
have
take
me
time.
interested in so many different ways. You need a hypnotist?
Do I need a hypnotist? I'll
why not?
mention everybody else, but right now I don't.
Yeah, Baron, you need to hypnotize me into being able to do magic.
That's
you need
easy
to
enough.
convince me
Come
that
on,
I
I want a
can.
challenge.
But we've got Arthur to handle the occult magic, and we've got me to handle the stage magic. Now you want to do magic too?
I want to do the real stuff. Yeah, the real.
Yeah, I do real magic. I don't
Yeah.
do stage magic.
No, he.
No, well, then, go on.
Like I said,
have
you
me
do the real stuff, I do the fake stuff. And I admit that it's
Well, there you go.
I kind of apply a scientific principle to how magic operates, meaning we look for results-oriented magic, not just because we're looking for something floofy or something. We're not trying to delude ourselves. We're looking for tangible results.
Which is one of the things I like about what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we term it magic because science doesn't have a better name for it yet. I personally think it will eventually. I do see it as a science. It is a, you put something in here, you get the expected result out the other side. That's what science is supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And it's also about observations and making theories and drawing
Repetition.
conclusions and testing those conclusions. And even if you get a failure, usually that can yield something useful, and you go off from that. That's normal scientific research.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dead ends, admittedly.
No, I agree with you completely. I mean, I think all of this stuff we call, the stuff I do, the paranormal, the spirits, magic, I think it's science we don't understand yet. And yet is the key word.
And very much
There's not a
when it comes
bridge
to
science
lying.
yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
let's
hypnosis
face
is
it,
just starting to scratch the surface. So yeah, I definitely get you there.
yeah. I mean, you think of it this way. I mean, chemistry came from alchemy. Astronomy came from astrology.
Medicine and
who told
toxicology
the old
also
witch
came
doctor
from
saying,
alchemy.
or the wise woman to say, hey, go chew this bark in the forest and it'll get rid of your headache, which worked, actually. Chemistry got a hold of it. It was like, hey, there's actually a chemical in here that actually works. Well, who decides to go and eat the bark everywhere in the forest to come up with, like, you should chew that bark? You know what I mean?
Sure, why not?
Well, there's
To
also
say where something came from is sort of like, okay, there's chemistry there, but who's the idiot who ate everything in the forest to figure out what does what?
Some guys
How,
had
where's that
that
connection? Everybody sort of skips that part.
Yeah. Well, I will
I
say,
can tell you right now, the guy that licked the toad and said, dude, that looks yummy, and realized, oh, wow, I could taste purple.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen either, but I mean, it's sort of like, I have a headache, so I'm going to go around, like, bashing my head and eating everything until something works. I mean...
Yeah, you have to wonder. Although,
Well, I guess if it's a bad enough headache, you got nothing to lose, so I'll just go chew bark, and what have I got to lose? Maybe it'll kill me, and then it'll be
and then no more headache.
And they're like, oh, shit, it worked.
Well, that's the problem,
Yep.
is that most of the stuff would kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
been
mean,
a lot of
like, you eat
things
some
that'll kill
berry or
you.
something else like that, you're dead on arrival. So, I mean, you didn't care about the headache anymore.
Well,
and that's part of the problem. Like, how do you know what's safe, what's not?
For that
Well, I
matter,
wouldn't
in
even
a,
think about
Most of
that.
the
It's like,
time,
in a very
I was
similar
going to
note,
say,
there's
like the first guy who dug up a potato. Oh, should I eat that? Or...
Yeah. Well, there's also the interesting.
Well, I mean, I grant you there. I
This is
mean,
where we have so many
but I
guests.
mean,
Too many
I guess
smart
with eating
people.
potatoes, you saw animals eating it, so you go, well, maybe that's probably safe-ish.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
mean, that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
100%. There's a lot of things animals eat that humans can't.
Well, you want a good example of this? Look at magic mushrooms. So there's the mushrooms that you can take that will make you trip
I
balls.
think sometimes
Now you're
too much.
talking
That
my
look
language.
almost exactly the same as mushrooms that will kill you stone dead.
Yeah.
How many
Or,
people
dude,
died
think
figuring
that
out which was
stone.
which?
Well, what's even funnier from a food standpoint, something like olives. Olives in their natural berry form are exceedingly bitter and unpalatable. You have to soak them essentially in poison for a while, in lye, in order to make them,
Edible.
edible. Who would have thought of that? It's like, these things taste horrible, but I bet if we soak them in poison, they'll be okay. Again, who's the first person that came up with that?
And said, screw it, let's just throw it in lye. If it kills them, then we don't got to worry about the bill later.
Yeah, something
Well,
like that.
here's an even simpler example, though. If a voodoo practitioner, to pick on voodoo, goes out to a field at midnight and slits the throat of a chicken and spreads the blood around the field to have a good harvest, is it that different from throwing fertilizer around the field? The blood still has some of the same, it's accomplishing the same end. It's just a ritualized way of doing that, which is, I think, true of a lot of magic. The other thing I would point to is because I've had skeptics tell me all the time, no useful results has ever come out of paranormal research, and it's not true.
Which is Pear did a lot of stuff
Agreed.
that didn't produce the results they wanted, but it produced results.
Well, a real good example. There's it's largely become the New Age movement, really, but there was the movement in the 19th century and early 20th century known as Theosophy.
Yes.
I
And
remember that. Yeah.
there was a group of theosophists that were practicing what was called occult chemistry, where they'd use clairvoyance to see things down at the molecular level. Annie Besant, who was one of the major leaders of the movement, was one of the people who wrote a book about this. And in the book, she talked about what she called paraneon. It was something like neon, but had a different atomic weight. She even gave the atomic weight in the book. Now, a few years later, the man who would invent the mass spectrograph would discover an ion of neon that had the same atomic weight that she had mentioned. And the link is so clear that when he gave his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, he explicitly named occult chemistry and Annie Besant's work as one of the inspirations for him discovering this.
There you go.
It doesn't prove it, but it does ask some really good questions.
Yeah, I'm not saying that normal science shouldn't be done, far from it. But it's a matter of sometimes inspiration coming out of completely left field, it can be very useful for.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they certainly, and that's just the more provable stuff. The intangible stuff is, oh, someone's ill, you cast a spell, they're better. Okay, would they have gotten better if you hadn't done that? Would they have gotten better quicker or less quickly? You know, how do you really know? You got to set up, you know, an entire study, but because there's no good control, it's circumstantial. You know, anything from, you know, certain opportunities that come out of nowhere, that kind of thing. How do you quantify that? Because you need the control, and because everybody's life is unique, how can you really say, oh, well, the magic allowed you for this opportunity for this job or this income or this, you know, significant other or whatever else, you know, or even if your car, like, not blowing up in the right spot or something else like that. I mean, how do you really set up a good scientific thing saying that what you did had a result? Those that practice magic, some people, I'll admit, the noise race is really horrible. There's a lot of people that claim things that just aren't true.
Yeah.
But there are some that, you know, do have, you know, very consistent results. And, like, we have a running joke among myself and my students. It's like, oh, we know we're having, you know, something went wrong because we have normal people luck. You know, because you get so used to things being just that synchronized that, you know, just, you know, basically, you know, magic is just, you know, good luck control. You know, it's synchronicity to a large degree. I mean, everybody wants to throw the fireball and chuck the car and be, you know, some superhero from Marvel, but as a general rule, it doesn't work that way. And if it did work that way, we'd be in a very different world really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I think
we're just about
it actually comes down to what I call associative evidence, where I'll give a slightly interesting example. Radium, when it was first discovered, it was indicated that one, it glowed, which immediately was a great marketing tool, and two, it tended to emanate a little bit of heat. Now, people had a tendency to think that, okay, well, heat sterilizes crap, so let's just make condoms out of this, too. Let's infuse condoms with radium. The heat will sterilize the frickin' sperm. Guess what? We got the perfect prophylactic out there. Let's make radium condoms.
Gentlemen.
Now, the mentality.
Baron, hold on. I really hate to say this, but it's just about 7:30, excuse me. We're going to have to wrap this up.
Yeah, we have sponsors we have to pay the bills for and then run out.
Ending it on radium condoms. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chuck and Arthur, I want to thank you both so much for calling in and for being part of the show in the last year and going forward. You guys have been great.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. You're always welcome back. Okay, folks.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
I hate to say it because I always love being here with you guys, but this is going to wrap it up for the night. We're going to do our sponsors and then we're going to be done. So the first sponsor I want to talk about is Audible. Remember, you can go to audibletrial.com/paranormale, audibletrial.com/paranormale. You get a free 1-month membership and a free audiobook. If you quit the membership before you have to start paying, you get to keep your audiobook.
Yep.
There's tons of books. All of Brian's books are up there.
Great books.
I'm sure Dacre's book, Dracul, that's coming out next month is going to be there.
On there.
So you can Get it, listen to it, or for that matter, if you're in the area, go down to the thing in Philly at what was the name of the museum?
Something with an R.
Yeah, and we can find it online easily enough. But he's going to be in Philadelphia at the museum that has Stoker's notes. We're going to try and come down there too.
Yes.
And then of course the other one, Baron. You want to take it away?
Gladly. Now everyone is concerned about internet security these days, from governments to major corporations, and even average internet users should be concerned about who's seeing your online information and how that information can be used. NordVPN is the answer you've been looking for. Now, a VPN, in case you haven't known, is a virtual private network that protects your IP address so that your online activity is protected by a military-grade encryption. Now, the way it works is you connect to Nord's protected network, and they connect to the Internet. And it's a layer of protection between you and all the viruses, malware, and snoopers out there. Nord works on all devices, too. It's not just computers. Your phone, your tablet, whatever. It's up to 6 devices at a time, regardless of what operating system they use. Nord works with them all. Now, access all the Internet content you want, streaming media, websites, social platforms. Nothing's restricted on Nord. So it's a great way to get around those pesky firewalls at work. Maybe if you live in a country that's not so Internet friendly. Now, they got easy plans. They're starting at a month for $11.95 down to 3-year plans for as low as $275 a month. Now, why don't you check it out risk-free over at nordvpn.com? You'll be glad you did.
Okay, folks, that's going to do it for tonight. I'm your host, Kevin Mears, Paranormal Encyclopedia and Demonologist, saying good night and God bless. Brian has left the room. I'm assuming he had to go to the bathroom. Baron, you want to say good night?
Good night, everybody. Make sure you avoid some lightning rods. And on behalf of Brian, live long and prosper.
And remember to tune in next week when I do believe we are going to talk about some of the crazier paranormal groups and some of the goofy things they do. Just like Baron said, it's too much fun. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Are we clear?
We're good? Yeah, I think we're good.